Welcome to Unselfishly Me, a podcast all about self-love, self-care, and everything in between. I'm Jane, a personal trainer with a focus on self-love. Each week, we'll be chatting to someone about their self-love journey, how long it took, and what it took to get there. Hi, everyone. Welcome to South Africa. I have a self-love podcast, so obviously I have to ask you about self-love, and I think it's so important for women, especially when you're a mom and you're working and you're doing all these amazing things. So what does self-love mean to you? And then what little self-love practices do you do each day? Obviously, being a busy mom and everything else is really hard to make time for yourself. But what are the little macro things that you do for yourself each day?
Such a great question. And I have struggled with self-love. It's something that came to my attention actually a couple years ago. I was really struggling, and a coach actually, that was one of the first things that he said to me was, you have to learn how to love yourself. And I was like, of course I love myself. That's not a problem. I totally love myself. And then as I started to do the deeper work, I realized, wow, I actually kind of have a problem, and I should love myself, and it shouldn't be so hard. And just the other day, I was actually, I was trying to write, and, I fancy myself a writer, but I feel the need to write and get things out. And I just haven't done it, but I did the other day. And what came out was being proud of myself. And I think that might be an easier first step, at least for me, to be proud of myself and my accomplishments, and not to always think they're not good enough, or I can always do more, or what have you. Really be proud of the things that I've done. And I think that is a way of practicing self-love, is being proud of what you've accomplished. So that's something that I'm trying to do. And in terms of what I do for myself every day, my husband always tells me I need to do more for myself. I'm sure that there's a lot of women here who feel the same way, but for me, it's working out. And if I can get a workout in, no matter if it's 15 minutes or an hour or 2 hours, if I can get some type of physical exercise in, that's something that I can do for me. That is a practice of self-love as well. I believe in fighting for equality. I've had many opportunities in my life, and I've also had a lot of challenges, because of my gender, and that shouldn't ever be a barrier to anything you want to accomplish. I have 3 little girls myself, and I'm fighting for them. And I'm fighting for women all around the world, because we should be able to do whatever it is we want to do, as long as we're willing to work harder than anyone else, be the hardest worker in the room, never give up, and fight for what we believe in. But no one should ever want to be like anyone else, right? You have to celebrate who you are, and own your own superpowers. And what makes you different is what makes you special. So I mean, I'm very humbled by what you said, but I do think every person is so unique and special and shines in their own way. I think it's important to have a voice, and it's important to use that voice, to be proud of who you are, to have confidence in who you are, to know that you belong, no matter what anybody tells you, to never back down, never give up, and work really, really, really hard. I have been the only woman in very large groups of male-dominated meetings. Growing up in this business, quite frankly, I do have the advantage of, being the boss's daughter, which, not everyone has. But there's definitely been times when I have felt like my voice didn't matter as much, wasn't heard as much. And in those situations, you just have to speak louder. It's actually, you have to grab the moment. You can't let it intimidate you. If your voice matters, if you have a point, that you really want to make it, and say in that room, say, I really want to make this point. You guys aren't listening to me, call it out. I have a colleague who is on the board of this media industry board. I won't go into details, but she's the only woman on this board. And they were all having conversations about what to do about gender equality. And not one of them asked her. And she let it go on for about 10 minutes. And she was watching and watching and listening, completely shocked that nobody just, like, they didn't all turn to her. And so she finally raised her hand and stood up and she said, "Hey guys, do you think it's a problem that we're talking about gender diversity and equality and you're not talking to me?" And they were all shocked. Like, they weren't even aware that that's what they were doing. The conversation changed, but you can't be afraid to use your voice in the room. You can't be afraid to be the one who stands up. And, that's a tough spot. It's hard to do, but you have to use your voice and have the confidence to do it. So I've always gravitated more towards the villains in any story since I was a kid. I just find them deeper, more interesting characters. And typically there's some like point in their story that's the turning point for them. And you can understand how they became what they became. So not consciously, I should say, but my dad was obviously an inspiration to me as I would say probably one of the greatest villains of all time. It was also such an outlet, right? Because I think what I did was draw from a lot of circumstances and people around me as well. The things that, because I think it's really important as you have relationships in life, not only to know what you like and what you want, but also what you don't like and what you don't want and who you don't want to be. I think that's really important. And I draw from all of the experiences that I've ever had with the people who have, I tend to be trusting and respectful first. And sometimes that can bite you in the butt. But I'm not going to change who I am. So that's been challenging for me, particularly in the business world where it is a little bit more ruthless and cutthroat. So I have had definitely times when I've been undermined or taken advantage of, all through my life. I not just, in various aspects of my life. And I try to draw from those people and how they were able to manipulate me. And then I put that lens on, and it's so fun to be able to portray that character. I have to say, it just really is so fun. And then ultimately, of course, the bad guy really never wins in the end. So to be able to then give that back to the audience, like, that was one of the reasons why I was the opponent for Ronda, is because I was the biggest female heel at that time, especially because of my power and putting, profits over people as a character and all this stuff. And Ronda could come, kick my butt on behalf of the locker room and everyone else watching. And that's fun to do too, right? I love to be able to give the hero that moment, because the bigger, the badder the villain, the bigger and more powerful the hero is who vanquishes that villain. Women take, more center stage, if you will, whether it's, in programming and business and life, right? Children are a huge part of our lives, a lot of us. And I think to be able to celebrate, that, I think a lot of times you're right, when women are in business or in any working capacity, they maybe haven't been treated the best in terms of when you get pregnant. It's like, oh great, now I'm going to lose this person for X number of months, and oh man, that's that's a knock against that person, or whatever that might be. I think that we need to be able to establish norms or reestablish norms, across business, sports, media, etc., any working capacity, because having children is a part of life, and it's actually quite a gift that we are able to have children. And that needs to be celebrated and recognized. And, I think tides are just really turning. I think it's just a matter of prioritization. And it's funny because my mom always told me that, my mom was CEO of WWE. And, I look at her as Wonder Woman. And she always told me that there's never a even balance. It's always going to be like this, right? And it's constantly moving. And it's hard. So I have, a couple of things that I commit to, right? Like driving my children to school every morning. And I'm very lucky that where they go to school, there has been school this year. But driving my children to school every morning is so important to me. It's something that, really fills me. And just having those conversations with them. We also put the dogs in the back. It's like a family affair. Yeah, and putting them to bed at night, cuddling them, and talking to them, having that special time one-on-one. And I have 3 kids, so it's really important to be able to give them that one-on-one attention too. So those are 2 things that I try to do every single day that fill me as a mom. And then, and of course, then there's work and travel and, this big life that I lead, right? As, in WWE, both as an executive, as a character, all of these different things. It's a really big life. And I'm really fortunate to live in. Not everybody wants a big life, by the way. But it's a constant struggle. I constantly struggle trying to balance it all out. And it's just a matter of prioritization. And for me, my family comes first. And that's something that I'm never going to budge on. My family comes first. That doesn't mean I won't have to travel when they have a school play or a big event or whatever it is. Sometimes you do have to make those sacrifices. But I know that if, something is happening, there's a crisis, there's whatever, my family comes first. I know where my priorities lie. But I struggle all the time with the balance. It's never balanced. What you have to go deeper on is, why do certain influencers or celebrities resonate with you? What is it about them that connects you? Because maybe there's an inherent passion. Maybe what you love about Sasha Banks is actually the fact that she is that she has overcome, something big in her life. She was homeless at various points in her life. She needed to take care of her brother who has special needs, and she went through a lot. And she's been very public with that. I'm not giving away her secrets, but you might be resonating with her for reasons that you don't realize. And I think it's finding your passion, finding the things that fuel you, that excite you, and that I think once you see things that make you happy, that excite you, that you want to learn more, that's when you start to really figure out, who you are. And I think to go back to that 5-year-old version of yourself, who is singing The Little Mermaid, or, Elsa, or whatever more contemporary, example I can give. Like, find that 5-year-old you who isn't afraid of anything. And that's your true essence.
Awesome. Thank you.
And thank you for having that podcast and helping spread that message, because I think it's so important.
Thanks for listening to Unselfishly Me. Follow us on Instagram at unselfishlyme and check out our website www.unselfishlyme.com.